What's going on, Broncos fans? You're watching the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Sam Brown. Got producer Perry behind the scenes, pushing the buttons, making the whole shebang work. And today we're answering your mailbag questions. So let's go ahead and jump on in with the first question from AP512. Where does, hashtag Broncos, of course, where does Demaryius Thomas rank in your Broncos all-time receivers? Great question. Haven't had a chance to talk DT on the show yet, so been looking forward to this one all week. I'm not going to lie. Demaryius Thomas, in my mind, the second best Broncos receiver of all time. And what a career he had in 9 seasons with Denver. Over 9,000 yards receiving, 13.6 yards per catch, 60 touchdowns over 9 seasons. You know I had to include the picture of him stiff-arming Ike Taylor into oblivion. What a play that was. One of my best memories as a Denver Broncos fan. And Demaryius Thomas, in my mind, like I said, the second best Broncos receiver ever. I think it'd be hard to argue him over Rod Smith. You're talking about a guy, one of the better all-time wide receivers in NFL history, but DT at number 2. I got Ed McCaffrey at number 3, part of that 97-98 team. Lionel Taylor at number 4, a guy who was balling before I was even born. Same thing with Haven Moses at number 5. That's my top 5. I think Rod Smith and Demaryius Thomas are a clear-cut number 1 and number 2. I think you could probably argue about the order 3 through 5, maybe throwing a guy like Steve Watson in there in the mix as well. But Demaryius Thomas, in my mind, the clear-cut second-best Denver Broncos receiver of all time. And hey, let's go ahead and show him some love in the comments section right now. He's calling it a career after 10, 11 seasons in the NFL. A great career he's had, and he's getting to walk out on his own terms, which I think is really crucial for players. I'm excited to see what's next in this chapter of his life, but until then, spam 88 in the comments section. Let's show Demaryius Thomas some love for a great career. This will also be the pinned comment here on YouTube. So if you get that ad break, this is just the perfect chance. Scroll on down, type those 88s, and then by the time you come back up, we'll be right back into our mailbag. All right, next question coming in from Mark Beatty. Said, hashtag Broncos, what about Von Miller as well as Bradley Chubb and Kyle Fuller? So this actually came in response to a video earlier in the week where we talked about PFF's top 50 player rankings. Justin Simmons made the list. Bryce Callahan made the list. So Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, and Kyle Fuller, I think they're all in that 50 to 75 range. That really depends on who's making the list. Some people may have Bradley Chubb higher than others. PFF is very much on analytics, which may favor a guy like Chubb or maybe a guy like Kyle Fuller, who, even though he had a down year in 2020, should come in and be the Broncos CB1 right off the top. I'm excited to see what Von Miller and Bradley Chubb do this season. Von Miller in particular coming off his ankle injury. Can he return to maybe 80-85% of what he was before the injury? That will help Bradley Chubb immensely, I think. So I think they're all in that mix. I would make a case personally for Kyle Fuller in the top 50. There were a couple guys there at the back end of the list I wasn't huge on. Guys like Marcus Williams, stuff like that. I would maybe throw Kyle Fuller in there. But I'll ask you this right now, Broncos fans. Who, in your mind, is the best player from this list? Is it Von Miller? You can go ahead and type your M. Is it Bradley Chubb? Type your C. Or is it Kyle Fuller? Type F. To me, it's between Chubb and Fuller. Von Miller, a very close third, but at this point in time, very much on the Broncos team, not just for his play style, but also for the leadership intangibles he brings. But I want to know from you. I think we'll get a good mix of answers in the comments section. Third question here on our mailbag, JDAV952. Will the Broncos have a top 8 defense this year? I think they will, JD, and I'll actually one-up you. I think they'll have a top 5 defense. Let's go ahead and jump into my list of who I think the top 5 defenses will be this season. I think at number 1, the Pittsburgh Steelers. If Ben Roethlisberger wasn't their quarterback and they didn't have a shoddy offense, they would get a lot more love. But that team was put in some tricky situations last year. At number 2, you saw it in the Super Bowl, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The game plan they had against the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes was excellent. Played out perfectly just how they wanted, and they're bringing back pretty much everybody to run it back and try and repeat as Super Bowl champions. At number 3, I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens. I think another year of experience for some of the younger guys like Patrick Queen, another Marlon Humphrey can really develop. Tyus Bowser will have to step up into a bigger role, but I think they've got all the pieces and have the makings of a top 5 defense along with the coaching staff that I'm sure will guide them along the way. At number 4, your Denver Broncos. I mean, it's hard not to put in the top 5, right? The pieces, the moves they made in the offseason have put them in a better spot to succeed. Now, a lot of ifs still to be proven. So we'll see how all of that plays out. At number 5, I've got the Washington football team, who just lost their top corner, Ronald Darby, to the Broncos. I think they've got all the makings, all the pieces. Things will unfold the way they will. Injuries will happen, I'm sure, like they did last season. But there's no doubt that the potential is there. The secondary is absolutely revamped. You brought back Justin Simmons. You made some great draft choices, in my opinion, on the defensive side of the ball. That defensive line still gives me a little bit of pause. Middle linebacker, not the strongest core, the strongest group on this Broncos roster. But the potential is there. It's about putting it out on the field and proving it. Be sure to subscribe to the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports because we're going to keep you posted all up season long. The latest news and rumors throughout training camp into the regular season. We're going to have all these videos for you, and the best part is they're going to be free. I know it's been a while since I've hopped in front of the camera. Been doing a little bit more behind the scenes. Shout out to producer Perry taking the blow, hopping behind the computer this time around. But we're always going to keep you updated on your Denver Broncos. So be sure to hit that big red button and subscribe today. All right, another question here from Richard Murray. Let me take a breath here. This is a long one. Hashtag Broncos. With what we know about the depth at secondary, the pass rushing pressure from Chubb and Miller, along with inside pressure of Jones, Purcell, and Harris, all Broncos need is Browning and Surtain to be who we think they are, to be the top defense in the NFL. Why can't we be more optimistic about being a contender? You know, I think you got a valid point there. I think Denver will be in the mix this season. I think it'd be hard for them not to, given the moves they made on the defensive side of the ball to really shore up some of the holes that really took them down last season. They're going to be in the mix. I think they're going to be in the mix for a wild card spot. It's tough to see them upsetting the Chiefs and flat out winning the AFC West, but they're right in the thick of it. The reason why people can't be optimistic about the Broncos being a serious playoff contender is because they have questions at arguably the most important spot in all of sports. If you look at what Drew Lock did last year, it's hard not to have questions. If you look at what Teddy Bridgewater did last year, it's hard not to have some sort of doubt because really it's make or break. When you look at the AFC quarterbacks, the AFC West quarterbacks, Broncos are last. There's no way around it. Patrick Mahomes, Derek Carr, Justin Herbert. I would take all of those quarterbacks over Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater like that. Now, I get the fact that, hey, maybe you don't need elite quarterback play to make the playoffs. Kind of, sort of. I want you to look at this from last season. The four quarterbacks and the teams who were in the mix for a wild card spot. Lamar Jackson with the Ravens. They wound up with the 5th seed. Baker Mayfield and Browns at 6. Phillip Rivers and the Indianapolis Colts were the 7th seed. And then Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins just missed the cut. Guys, one of these names is not like the other. Yes, Phillip Rivers was a little older. That Colts defense probably a little better. But Miami's defense was pretty damn good last season. And yes, Tua was young, inexperienced. Hopefully he takes that next step. Wish him all the best. But he wasn't good. There's no way around it. So at the end of the day, you can get by with decent quarterback play potentially and make the playoffs. But you'd feel a lot better if you had a better quarterback, an above-average quarterback who you know has the capabilities to get you in the mix. As of right now, all the pieces around the Broncos quarterback spot are pretty solid, but it's just the names right there in that group that leave a lot of people in doubt as to their potential for 2021. But I'll ask you guys, maybe you disagree. Can Denver make the playoffs with Locke or Bridgewater? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Simple question for you here. I think they can. I think they can make the playoffs, but I would feel a lot better if you had a guy who's probably even a top 20 quarterback as opposed to Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, really bottom 15 probably the way you look at it. But Y for yes and for no. Get your votes in the comments section. All right, a couple more questions here. All Out Broncos 1858. Appreciate you watching the show always and always getting your questions in. Hashtag Broncos. If Fangio gets fired at the end of the season, what head coach should they take a look at? Mine is Brian Daboll from the Bills. I like that name. I'll give you a few names to look out for if they choose to move on from Vic Fangio after this season, which is very much a possibility, by the way. Top guy on my list would be Eric Bieniemy today, and I think he'd be the top guy on a lot of people's list. Keep him in the AFC West, poach him from the Chiefs, maybe get a couple trade secrets here and there. The key to stopping the Broncos, I think that'd be very intriguing for me. Brian Daboll, I mean, the job he's done with Josh Allen, absolutely phenomenal. I think if Josh Allen has another season like he did last year, he'll be a head coach. He'll be gone. Lincoln Riley, I had to throw him in there from my time at the University of Oklahoma covering OU football. I think he's one of the best offensive minds in the sport, college and NFL combined. I don't think he would make the jump from OU, which is one of the best jobs, period in football to the Denver Broncos, but had to throw his name up there. Joe Brady, I think, is a name to watch. If the Carolina Panthers can take another step next season, Sam Darnold can revitalize his career. I think they'll give Joe Brady a lot of credit for that. And then a name I want you to look out for, DeMeco Ryans. Some of you guys may be familiar with him, former linebacker. Now stepping into the defensive coordinator role with the San Francisco 49ers after Robert Saleh left to be the head coach of the New York Jets. Players are raving about him. Robert Saleh has raved about him, outright supported him and endorsed him to be the defensive coordinator, almost poached him to take him with him to the New York Jets. But that's a name to look out for. DeMeco Ryans, probably a little bit of a sleeper guy, but that San Francisco 49ers defense has the potential to be scary next season. All right, last question here on our mailbag. Appreciate all of you guys getting them in using hashtag Broncos. Be sure to get hashtag Broncos in the comments if you want to get on the next one. Who's one signing you want Denver to make if it's cheap before the season? I see your name, and I'll raise you one more. We'll give you two names to look out for. First one, KJ Wright. And this is a guy that I'm intrigued by because I think he was expecting a lot more money than what has been out there in terms of offers. He's still a solid player, getting up there in age at 31 years old, and we'll show you how he fits maybe in that Broncos depth chart here in a little bit, but still had a solid season for Seattle. 86 tackles, 2 sacks, 12 TFLs, and a forced fumble. Can he be an every down linebacker at this stage in his career? I'm not entirely sure. With that being said, I think if you look at this depth chart, there's no reason why he can't be that number 3 linebacker rotating with A.J. Johnson and Josie Jewell. He'd be a little bit more of an off-ball situations, maybe when you're rushing 4 as opposed to 5. But I think he would fit in the Vic Fangio defense fairly well. He'd be a good mentor to the younger guys, too. Josie Jewell is still fairly young. Baron Browning, Justin Sternad, I think KJ Wright would be a valuable asset there. And then how about David DeCastro? This is a name that we haven't talked about on the Broncos Breakdown, but the rumor mill has been spinning recently after the Steelers released him just last week. Some talk of him retiring due to injury. He's 31 years old in age, but this is a 2-time All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowl offensive guard. I like Glasgow and Reisner, but I think he could easily fit in as that swing offensive guard. I think he provides value. I think he provides a lot of experience. And I think he'd be a great mentor as well to a guy like Quinn Miners. So those are a couple of names to look out for. Broncos, I don't know, are going to make a ton of moves here entering the 2021 season. I think the roster is pretty much set as of now. But we'll have to see. There's still plenty of time until training camp and the 2021 NFL season. That's going to do it for our Broncos mailbag. Again, appreciate all of you guys who got your questions in. And hey, if you want to get on the next one, it's pretty simple. Get down in the comments section and use hashtag Broncos. You can ask away about anything, anytime, any player, anywhere, the whole shebang. Get your questions in, and also give me a follow on Twitter while you're at it. I know I don't hop in front of the camera as much as I used to, focusing a little bit more behind the scenes moving forward, but that doesn't mean I don't love talking my favorite team, the Denver Broncos. Sam Brown CS on Twitter is where you'll find me. Hop in the DMs, ask away with any questions you might have, and I'll see you soon.